All right, I'm going to go ahead and get started. We have some announcements to go through, and then we'll be jumping into our panels today. So I'm Brittany Fong. Welcome to the DC Tableau user group. You can follow us on Twitter. Our handle is @DCTug. And you can find their upcoming meetings, job postings, data events, announcements. It just kind of depends on what's coming through. Right now, since everything is virtual, you can really find stuff anywhere, but usually these are going to be events and job postings that are local to the DC area. Also, since things are virtual right now, Tableau has put together a virtual community events page. So you can actually travel, I guess, around the world to different user groups and see what people are doing. So I've tuned into some other ones like Kansas City and Atlanta. So it's just kind of fun to see what other user groups are doing in this virtual time. Our next user group meeting is already planned. So save the date. You can actually already register for it. It's going to be a Workout Wednesday breakout group. And we actually did this one last year. This year, I have actually gotten all of the contributors or organizers. I think they call themselves contributors. I've gotten them to actually facilitate the breakout rooms. So that should be really fun. So go ahead and sign up for that. All right, a little bit about today. We have 2 panels. It's all about learning Tableau. So the first panel is going to be a group of users who are newer, not super new, some of them, but newer to Tableau. And they're going to be talking about how they learn Tableau. And then the second panel is going to be people who are involved with training at their organization or have been using Tableau for a while and can speak to training. We also are going to be doing Q&A, so you can either put questions in the chat or there's also the Q&A function. And we'll try to keep an eye on those to get your questions answered. And then we're going to be recording this, so it will be on the Tableau YouTube page, but I also put them onto the event. So like where you went to the DC Tug page to register for this event, the recording will also be there. And there's also previous recordings up there if you want to see one of our previous meetings. All right, so with that, I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to have the 4 from our first panel turn on their cameras. I'm going to pull up my questions. All right, so to start off, we're just going to go around and do introductions. So I have Dinushki first on mine. If you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, how long you've been using Tableau, and then how you first heard about it or got introduced to it.
Sure. Give me a second. Okay, there you guys are. Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Dinushki Livera. I often go by D because that's easier to say. I have been using Tableau for about 4.5 years now. So I've been using it for a while. The first time that I was introduced to Tableau was because it was in grad school when I was learning applied economics. Data visualization was elective that you could pick to do. And when I read the description, it just kind of brought my worlds together because it had aspects of, creativity. It had you working with data and analytics, and that's just kind of my jam. So it was perfect for me. And then my teacher was Jeffrey Schaefer. He is a really well-known name in the Tableau community. And I guess the rest was history. I now work for him in the BI team. So I guess I did well in the class. That's me.
Awesome. All right. Next, I have Varun.
Hi guys, my name is Varun Goenka and I just graduated in December from University of Maryland and I pursued my masters in information systems. I was introduced to Tableau in one of my courses as well, like 1.5 years back, but I never actually utilized it to its full potential. But last year I joined Millennials and Data Bootcamp by Chantley and Erin, and that was the time I fell in love with Tableau. So yeah.
Awesome. All right, next I have Jahi. I'm not actually sure if that's right. I should have asked you earlier.
Yeah, it's Jahi.
Okay, Jahi.
Yes. Hello everybody. I'm Jahi Hamilton. I'm currently a junior finance major and Swahili minor at Howard University. Um, I've been using Tableau for around 5 months, a little less than half a year. I first got introduced to it back in my freshman year when Chantilly came to one of my classes and gave a presentation on millennials and data, and basically told everybody about what Tableau is and how to get involved. Um, and that's where I learned about Tableau and all that stuff, all that good stuff as well.
Nice. And last but not least, Dzifa.
Hi everyone, my name is Dzifa Amexo and I just graduated from Mercy College with my bachelor's in finance and data analytics. And I've been using Tableau for around 2 years now. So I first got introduced to it when I interned at Johnson & Johnson my freshman year. And I really just thought it was cool. I was like, okay, like you can make pretty things. I didn't really know much about it. And then I came back to school my sophomore year. My school created this new specialization in data analytics. And I thought, okay, this seems kind of cool. Why don't I try it out? And then from there, I took a class called Communicating with Data, where we learned Tableau, just the basics. And then I was also part of this recent cohort of Millennials in Data.
Awesome. So it sounds like a lot of you learned this in school, or that's at least where you were introduced. What percentage would you say you learned in school versus what was self-taught? So we'll just go in that same order for all of you.
I would say a lot of it was taught in school in introductory, level stuff. But then once I used it every day in my day-to-day work, I've learned just so much more, whether it was through mentorship, through the community, or just, self-learning. I feel like I have grown immensely with the software itself, if that makes sense.
Yep, I totally get that.
For me, like in school, I just learned like how to make graphs, like bar charts and like basic charts in school. Like we never like actually created any dashboards. But most of my learning was in Millennials and Data Bootcamp, and apart from that, it was like self-taught. I used to like read blogs and also like ask feedbacks from the community members. So that's how I learned.
So for me, just about everything that I learned about Tableau came from the Millennials and Data Bootcamp. That was when really I learned how to use everything that I know about Tableau. Before that, I was just really using Excel. That's what I learned in school. They didn't have a course, or they still don't have a course on Tableau in my school. So all my information came from the bootcamp.
For me, I would say 25% that I learned in class, and then the rest, so 75% to Millennials in Data and self-teaching myself. In the course that I took in my university, we learned about like the basics of like pre-attentive attributes and color and all that jazz. And we didn't actually create like any dashboards, but we learned how to make sheets, how to do parameters and all that stuff. And there's also a component about kind of preparing for like the certification. So we'd have written exams, which I was so bad at. I was great when you told me to like make a bar graph, but when it came to like the concept, that's where I really struggled. But I think it did give me that basis foundation to then go and learn through myself and Millennials in Data.
Cool. And then one question that I think will also pertain to all of you. Do any of you have certificates, or are you planning on getting your Tableau certification?
I do not. And I wasn't planning on it until recently. We had this discussion at work, and one of our supervisors said, it might be cool for you guys to, actually be certified since you're good at what you do. So why not? And there's probably a lot of things that we would learn by studying for the certification that we don't use every day. So yes, there is plans of taking the certification, but I don't have it right now.
I took my certification back in December, and I took like Tableau Desktop Specialist certificate exam. Yeah, it had mostly like the basics and like more theoretical, but along with like analysis using like Tableau workbook.
Yeah, so same as Varun, I got my desktop certification last December at the end of the year. That's what I got.
Yeah, so similar to both of them, I took my test, I think last weekend, and so I'm now Tableau specialist certified. It's funny because I don't think I would have actually gotten certified if I didn't do millennials and data. I think I was always holding off because I'm not very like conceptual person. I can do the things, but exams and things don't sit right with me. But I took it and I passed, and it wasn't that bad.
You guys can help me prep then.
Yes.
Nice. So apart from millennials and data, are there any other like paid classes or workshops that you did? And then if not, I'm going to assume that you probably did some sort of community project that's out there. So which one was it and why did you like it?
So for me, a lot of what I have, what I learn is a lot through the community, but I can't forget Jeff and the rest of my team. I also work with Kevin Flillich, who's another huge name. So I have a lot of gurus and zens around me at work that help me through, growing in Tableau and if I have any questions. But the community itself, like you said, the community projects, Brittany, that I have taken part in is Makeover Monday. Something that I have, that I used to do quite often a long time ago. But I never really posted them on public. I don't know why. I guess I was just self-conscious, which is not good. But I did take part in Makeover Monday, and it definitely helped me.
Nice.
Apart from the boot camp, I used to like learn like a lot from Tableau Magic. That is by Tuan Hong. Even he's a Zen master, and he like creates a blog on like how to create different charts. So yeah, that was like most of my learning. And like when it comes to initiatives, I took part in this time's Iron Race student competition, and I'm planning to like take part again like in the Iron Race.
So for me, outside of the boot camp, I actually have not taken part in much anything else. I would love to get more involved with the community and do more projects with like the whole community, but like so far, most of everything that I've done has been through the boot camp, and if not, it's been self-taught, like looking up different blogs and stuff like that, and looking at different videos and just searching for information.
I also did Makeover Monday. I think that was the biggest thing for me because one, the data comes prepped, like it's clean, you don't have to do anything. And then you just work on visualizing the story analysis. So that really helped me kind of figure out the flow of things and how things work in Tableau. And then also with the little viz review that they do. So each week they'll like pick a few vizzes and go through like what's good, what's bad, what you can improve upon. I found that the more I interacted with that, I started to realize like, okay, this is what good looks like. This is how I do this. And now I'm kind of focused more on Workout Wednesday because I want to get a little bit more technical. So that's what I've been doing this year.
Nice. So when you were learning Tableau, what did you think was the hardest thing to learn or like conceptualize? And that could be like, we made tons of charts, but we never made dashboards, like something like that.
For me, I think it was LODs or level of detail calculations. I feel like it
Definitely.
just, yeah, okay, thank you. I feel like it just didn't make sense to me for a really long time. And I even had a couple of people try to teach it to me, but no, nothing. It would just kind of go past. But and how I actually learned that and tried to understand the concept of it was through practice, of course. I mean, people say practice makes you perfect, but it really does help when it comes to LODs. I even had Kevin send me a bunch of questions, and just sitting down and answering those questions and trying to conceptualize it really has helped me. And in fact, I just did some today, and it confirms like, okay, I get it.
Yeah, same for me. Like LODs, like like till date, I struggle with that. So yeah, definitely like planning on working more and practicing that.
For me, what I found the most challenging when I was learning was definitely the parameters, just because of like how expansive it is and how many different things you could do with it. Like it definitely took some time for me to fully grasp and comprehend like that feature in Tableau. So I would say parameters for me.
I would have to agree with everything. It took me like 2 years to finally understand how parameters actually work. But I think initially when I first started, I was really struggling with the blue versus green pills, discrete, continuous, date part versus date value, just because for me it wasn't necessarily intuitive and I still get tripped up sometimes. But now like I understand what the difference is.
Nice. So could you just a little bit about your background? Do you feel like you're a super technical person, or you're not? Like maybe you came from coding or you did tons in Excel. Like how did that affect your learning in Tableau?
So I did not come from like I was not an expert in Excel. I was not an expert in coding, so kind of nothing. But my background was mostly in R and SAS. So a lot of making regression models, understanding prediction and forecasting. That was kind of my field because I was doing an applied economics. So when I was able to learn Tableau and be able to be creative and learn calcs and be a little bit more technical, but also have my have fun with design, I love that. So I really can't say that I had a technical background when I got into it, but I can say that my technical background in Tableau has significantly grown throughout the years. So I'd say I'm half-half.
Uh, I came from a pretty technical background and I know like Python, SQL, R pretty much well. And since I like got introduced with Tableau and I really enjoyed it, so I kind of like utilized Tableau a lot more. But I just used to utilize Python just for like data cleaning purposes. But yesterday itself, I came across like Tableau prep. So planning on dropping Python as well.
Yeah, I didn't come from a very technical background either. So while I was taking the boot camp classes, I was actually enrolled in an Excel course at the same time. So having those two together at the same time definitely was helping my understanding of Tableau. And then prior to the boot camp, there were a couple times where I had attempted to try to teach myself how to code using SQL and Python. So I would say I'm kind of a beginner at those two languages. And when I was going through the boot camp, I like kind of saw a lot of the similarities between using SQL and using Tableau. And then like that helped me connect a lot of dots easily just from the jump. So yeah.
I wasn't a technical person either. Whenever I think about Tableau, I think it's like a mix of art and science. And now looking back, I literally had none. Like I'm a math person, I like numbers and all that jazz, but I knew a little bit about Excel, but that was pretty much it. I think the one thing about Tableau is that it's so user friendly. Like you don't need to know how to code or do anything. It's pretty much just drag and drop once you have the concepts. In terms of my, I guess, tech experience while in the bootcamp and before, I'd taken a class in R, and at the same time as the bootcamp, I was taking a class in SQL, and now I'm trying to learn Python for fun. But I still wouldn't consider myself a tech person. I'm more of like business and analytics and not tech, but I think you don't need to be a tech, you don't need to be like creative in order to use Tableau and make the most out of it.
Awesome. All right, so next, who or what has been your favorite resource for learning Tableau?
I think I have two. First off, I have to say my absolute favorite resource for learning Tableau is my team at work. Shout out to you guys. But I mean, whenever we have an issue or, you know, we're stuck with something in Tableau, we all kind of jump on a Zoom call and work it out together, understand the problem. And so that has been my favorite way of learning Tableau these days. But my next favorite way of learning Tableau is definitely through the community. Even Tableau Public, just downloading a viz and just trying to understand how someone created something has been a great learning experience, and also a very mind-blowing experience, because you keep thinking, oh my gosh, why did that person do it like that? Why don't I think like that? You know what I mean? So that's just a really fun way to learn as well.
For me, like I did not have any specific resource, but as I said, like I used to follow like different blogs, and I used to like do reverse engineering, as D said. Like I used to download like other visualizations and just see like how they created those things.
So my main resources were just looking at different visits on Tableau Public and just getting a whole bunch of inspiration from just seeing people who are experts do what they do. And the other one was our mentor, Erin. He was very helpful throughout the whole boot camp. Like whenever I had a trouble with any concept or any problem, like I could reach out to him and he would, like, no matter what time or anything, like he was very helpful. Definitely showed me a lot about how to work in Tableau. So
I'd say the resources I use the most would definitely be the community, like Dee said. More specifically, my favorite blogs are the Data School. I think they break down concepts really well. And sometimes it might be the Information Lab. They'll have like video sessions or training sessions that are free. You can hop on. So I think blogs also paired with videos and just like going to tugs and seeing what people are talking about and training was really how I started to learn Tableau and has helped me out the most.
Nice. I feel like this group is super special because you all have really well-known mentors. So you always have somebody to rely on or like ask questions to. All right, so when you're first learning Tableau, it's very easy to be overwhelmed just like by the sheer amount of things that it can do. What do you think would be a good starting point?
You mean for like a new user, or yeah, that's what you mean, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, like I just opened Tableau and I'm like, what do I even do with this thing?
So I am a true believer in taking things step by step. For example, if I was a new user, I would jump on the Tableau bandwagon instantly because it looks so exciting. And then I see everything that people are doing on Tableau Public, and I'm even more excited and I want to do all these things that other people are doing. And then, of course, a lot of people try to jump right up there, try to make inverted radial bars that are hanging upside down, and you know what I mean? Just like crazy things. And I feel like you should kind of take it step by step, start from the basics, understand the concepts, learn to do a bar chart at the best bar chart you've ever made. There can be so many variations. So I think that instead of, being intimidated and wanting to jump up, try to start by crawling and walking and then running. that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like it's so easy to get carried away. It's just like, oh my gosh, that thing is so cool.
Exactly. I've been there I'm always there.
Nice.
I would suggest like Tableau has like videos and they go like step by step, like for a new user, like they even like tell you like how to connect the data, how and like explain it in detail. So that would be a good resource for a new user.
For a new user, I would say the best thing to do would be to join a class, or like what I was mentioned earlier, just take things step by step. Um, Starting with the class, that definitely gave me a very strong base for me to build upon. So I would definitely recommend taking the class or utilizing the community and trying to find resources like that as well.
I would say first start out with data literacy, only because before I even took my like communicating with data course, I like learned what like a string format is and decimals and all that stuff. Because if you kind of just jump into Tableau without having that knowledge, it's just going to be super confusing. You're not going to know what anything means. But once you have that base foundational knowledge, then I'd say mess around with like the Show Me tab. That was my favorite back in the day. And yeah, just take it like step by step. Don't go too crazy. Bar charts are fun.
Nice. Yeah, so one just word of advice that I have for that would be using data that's actually interesting to you. Like I find that a lot of the time if you're using your business data, or even if it's like a Makeover Monday data set that you're not that interested into, it's just hard to get into. So find something that you're interested in, because then you'll automatically be like, oh, I wonder what happens if I do this. And then you'll be forced to like go through some of those small analysis steps.
So true. And sometimes you don't even care about the data. So you might be, visualizing that's something that doesn't even make sense because you don't
that's
care
true.
about it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. So have any of you tried any other data viz tools? And if so, I guess what was your impression of them and why are you sticking with Tableau?
I have not tried any other tools. I feel like because I work with Tableau all day, every day, I don't have the inclination to try another tool. I would be excited to try something like D3, but again, I'm taking it step by step. But I think Tableau is one of the leading softwares in the data visualization game. And I think that it's just so awesome. You get to be creative, and it's such a user-friendly software that is not so complicated for anyone. But totally agree with Dzifa when she said, learn your data structuring and data components first before you get into Tableau. But I stick with Tableau, not just because it's a good software, but also because of what comes with it, which is this amazing community that's always there to help you. Whether it's, a friend that's in the Tableau community on Twitter or a stranger on the forums, there's always someone that will answer your question. So I love that.
I have used Power BI before, but I definitely like plan on sticking to Tableau because I completely agree with Dinushki. Like I have been like stuck sometimes on Tableau and I don't know like what to do now. So I just like you can put a question in Tableau forum or just like put it on Twitter, and there are like so many people like who are willing to help you. So the main reason I would like stick with Tableau is the community.
So outside of Tableau, I actually haven't used any other data visualization tools besides Excel, but it's easy to see why one would choose to use Tableau over Excel, just based off the amount of depth that's offered to you compared to Excel. Like it's two different worlds.
For sure.
Honestly, I'm just going to say the same thing because it's true. It's honestly the community. I haven't used anything else just because of like convenience and my affection for Tableau, the community. But if I like start my career and they're like, we're going to use Power BI, then I guess I'd learn something else. But for now, I'm sticking with Tableau.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, I've been using Tableau for like 9 years and really haven't branched out to too much else. So I was just curious.
Are you curious to branch out or not really?
I have started using Power BI a little bit. I will say that it just takes me so much longer because I know Tableau so well now that like I have to really think about it. But there are some aspects that are nice and some things that are a little annoying. So I think it's a good substitute. All right, so I have one last question, but if anybody else has any, you can put them in the Q&A and we'll get to them before we finish this set. So lastly, what would be your last words of advice for somebody who's learning Tableau and just getting into it and is maybe getting discouraged or feeling overwhelmed or any of those things?
100% join the Tableau community bandwagon. It's super fun. You learn a lot. And if you have a question, it will 100% be answered by someone. That's my advice.
My advice would be like, you just need to be like willing to learn something. And like, there are like ample of resources which you can easily find out and work on it.
My advice would be to have patience and to be willing to learn, like Varun said, to, have patience with the software and have patience with yourself, because this is a very difficult tool to learn how to use. So, yeah.
I would say trust your journey. Like it's gonna take a while. I'm thinking of the little curve where it's like whenever you're learning something new, you start really slow, and then there's like that dip where you just feel like you can't do anything, and then you finally reach that point where you're like, okay, I kind of know what I'm doing. So yeah, just take your journey step by step, and don't be afraid to ask for help.
Awesome. Yes, I definitely echo all of those. One thing that I've also said is when you're getting really frustrated, sometimes it's just good to walk away for a little bit and then come back and you'll feel, more refreshed and ready to tackle your problems again. All right, so we do have one question that came through and it says, have any of the panelists used Salesforce before? And if so, would you use the Salesforce reporting dashboard functionality versus using Tableau?
So I haven't used Salesforce religiously at all. I've just used it a couple of times. And no, I have not used the reporting function on Salesforce, but I do know that it can be linked to Tableau. So you could do your dashboarding. I know I'm not answering the question, but you could do your dashboarding on Tableau and bring it into Salesforce, I believe.
Yes, I believe that's true too. I don't have any experience with it either though. I don't know if anybody else does. Okay, we might be able to ask that again in the next panel. Caesar can ask that one since that group has probably used Tableau for a couple of years. All right, that is all I have. Thank you so much for being part of the panel. And I hope that everyone who's a beginner now has some newfound energy and motivation to get out there and tackle it.
Thanks for having us.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right. I'm gonna have Caesar and our other panelists turn on their videos. And then I will turn it over to you.
Great, thank you, Brittany. And oh my gosh, what a great panel. The new users, those guys are amazing. They're incredible.
For sure.
I was sitting here just clapping the whole time. So I love it. Congratulations, guys. You're an awesome, awesome group to have on too. So let me go ahead and I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Cesar Pico. I'm a Tableau ambassador, and I work at T-Mobile. Been using Tableau for about 8 years now, and I've done a fair share of training, and I've also done a lot of work with COEs and whatnot. My role's kind of changed now, but I still kind of moonlight in the COE and still have fun with the group at T-Mobile. We're launching and getting off the ground, and we've got about. It's interesting. Went from an organization that had maybe like 5 to 10 users to a couple hundred users to now we're in the thousands of users and multiple Tableau servers all over. So it's quite an interesting change. And that's pretty much me. But I want to introduce pretty much our panelists too. If you guys can come through and introduce yourself and kind of talk about also how long you've been using Tableau and how many users you work with, as well as kind of your role training users. And I'll start off with Sarah, if you want to take.
Sorry. Hi everyone.
Yeah.
My name's Sarah, and I am in Singapore right now. And truth be told, I have got my son banging on the door behind me. So sorry about that if you can hear that. He's getting ready for school. So I am at Citi and I head data democratization here for APAC and EMEA. In terms of how long I've been using Tableau, I think it's about 5 years. I always go by versions, and I think the first version I saw was 9.0. And in terms of how many users we have here at Citi and APAC and EMEA, I'm going to say a lot and growing substantially. That's probably as much as I can say with that, but yeah, a lot of users here.
Erin, if you want to hop on in.
Sure, yeah. So my name is Erin Kellett. I'm at the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which is a U.S. federal agency. And I've been using Tableau for around 8 years and have been delivering trainings for around 7 years or so. My role at the organization is I'm on the business intelligence team, and one of the platforms we support is Tableau. And I lead end user support and technology. So work on making sure the platform's running, and then also making sure our users are able to use the platform.
Very cool. And I'll head over to Steve too.
Thanks. So I'm Steve Prokopiou. I'm based in London, England, and it's just coming up to midnight here. So hopefully I'll be able to stay awake. I'm sure I will. I worked with Tableau for 7 years. The first 4 of those, I led Tableau's professional services practice in Europe, Middle East, and Africa. So helping customers implement Tableau a little or as much as they needed, with training and professional services. And then since 2018, I've been working freelance, helping organizations such as Mars, Elsevier, and Inmarsat, create analytics ecosystems, an analytic culture, creating COEs, all of that kind of thing. And yeah, really enjoy working with Tableau.
Great. Well, Steve, stay on. I also wanted to ask you too, just kind of from what you've seen from all these organizations, and pretty much what's the process like for a new user coming through? We just heard from our panel of new users. What's the process like for new users that you see coming into the organizations that you work with?
I think it varies. That there are some organizations. Quite often, I would be asked to speak to organizations where they had swallowed the self-service pill, and their version of self-service was they frisbee the software out the door and say to the user, "Well, it's self-service. Good luck." But quite often, it's true. It's true.
Yeah, I believe
quite often, my role would be, it is self-service, but you have to hold people's hands and help them along the journey. So in all those 3 organizations I mentioned, the first thing I did was just implement a very simple onboarding plan where everybody that got a license just got an email to say, welcome, here's how you can get started, pointing them at either at the Tableau free training content that's on their website, told them who we were, and then set up just some intranet landing pages with some more self-help that people get access to and do their own education from there. In Marsat, I took it to the next level where we did actually run some of our own training. We had somebody from the data school here in London that we recruited him, and so we were able to run our own training. So it's just, self-service doesn't mean self-enablement. You have to help people a little bit and help them along the journey. So, yeah.
Excellent point. And I'll ask Erin too the same question. Kind of, what's it like for a new user coming through?
Well, yeah, we also have a self-service shop, so we don't build. Our team doesn't build reports for people. We help our 200 plus users build reports, but we don't leave them hanging, like Steve mentioned. So right when somebody gets a license, they get an email from us, kind of a welcome, and it details some of the services we provide. So they get a link to how to sign up for our twice a week office hours. They get and then they also get a link to our intro. I think they get a link to our intro training that we have recorded. And then we also offer our live intro training every 6 weeks. We try and do every 6 weeks or so. So once somebody becomes a Tableau user and gets a Tableau license, they actually get invited to all of our trainings. And we only have the 200 users, so we can just send out calendar invites to all our users. Yeah, so we do our best to help them along and not leave them hanging. The added one just like little plug for that is sometimes people will be working on a problem that somebody else in the organization has already worked on and already solved, and so us being kind of a central place, we can connect them to each other too.
Excellent. And I'll ask Sarah too, same question.
Yeah, so I think Steve and Erin have covered a lot, and I just want to reiterate for us, it's like making it inclusive, community, and as streamlined as possible. So the emails or the touch points on our intranet sites, so people can feel that they can reach out to us via different mediums, and that there's kind of some stuff that's already sitting there for them to use, and obviously leveraging a lot around the Tableau community as well. So what's out there, we really promote that.
And Sarah, oh yeah, what's that, Steve?
I forgot to mention that having some kind of collaboration channel like Teams or Slack, to have that informal mechanism of sharing information, like Sarah was saying, I also found that very useful to encourage people to help each other without the central team having to power it all the time.
Yeah, I learned from Paul Banoob. He was talking about having they've got a Skype channel open for users. So if you kind of run into problems or need help, that channel's there, and somebody's always watching it. So it's kind of a great point and tip to have in an organization. Nothing like feeling hopeless, when you can't get through something. So I guess I'm going to ask Sarah too about techniques and events. The trainings that she found to be most successful. It's kind of hard to get into this too. I think when we first start off training, I know as a trainer too, it helped me. I had a hard time understanding just what I knew about Tableau to start training, but at the same time, I had to kind of go back a little bit and put myself into my own shoes a few years back and kind of think about, well, how did I learn? And now what kind of techniques helped you, or any kind of events or anything like that helped you kind of get started, but also since then, have you found that they tend to be most successful?
Yeah, so when I first met Tableau, I actually was lucky enough in the company I was working for to do the full suite of training, and it was in person at the time. So I really kind of went through that whole process. I was never hands-on. I was managing a BI team at the time, and I was moving from one very traditional BI tool into Tableau, and I found I was throwing my team under the bus a few times by saying, oh, this will be really easy in Tableau, and it wasn't so easy. Sorry, that is my son knocking on the door. But so, I had a very formal realm of training, and then I found I wasn't hands-on, so I was still throwing my team under the bus effectively. And something that I found was I was lucky enough to go to conference, I think in 2017, and I met Andy and Eva who run Makeover Monday, and I got really, enthused when I saw that, and I picked that up myself and took it on as an initiative in 2018 to do every Makeover Monday, and I did that, for an entire year, and that gave me so much understanding on Tableau and the runnings of it, and it really helped me be able to to understand what Tableau was capable of really easily, what it shouldn't maybe be doing, what the data should be doing instead. And so then I've incorporated that into our training. So I think it's great to do the formal training, but unless you're in it every day and you're looking at different ways of solving different things, it's kind of hard to then just go off and run with it. So we try and incorporate, pockets of learning that take us outside of financial data, or having really, having very structured ways of doing things, or it has to look like this, and things like that. So I think it's really key to looking outside of probably the structure of formal training, as well as the structure of the organization and how things have typically always been done. And I think things like Makeover Monday really helped us.
Oh, Caesar, you're mute. Sorry.
Of course, I was passing the question on to Erin, and I was muted.
Oh, okay. I was like, I don't know who you're asking. I don't know who you're talking to. On my view, it did look like you were looking at me, but I don't know what everyone else's view. I think I was just writing down some of the stuff Sarah was saying, so I was really interested.
Sorry. Well, I was asking pretty much any techniques or events she's gone to, or anything that really helped her to be a lot more successful while training too. It's something I think I was always looking at. And I know it's funny because it's like a habit I've got is to watch introductory training. And I know it, but I want to see how other people teach it.
It is really interesting to watch other introductory trainings. I think the techniques that we have found most successful are to have follow-alongs. So a demo where the end users follow along, and then exercises where they can practice themselves. We've really liked that. If it's too much just watching, then it's really hard to, at least for me, it's hard to internalize. So I'm assuming it's hard for them as well. And then so that's
Excellent.
That's our thing. One other thing I wanted to mention here was I do. So I've actually been lucky enough to watch Caesar to do some training. So I really like Caesar's technique of incorporating storytelling in his training. So it's not just doing a move. It's, oh, my boss actually asked me, I did this nice bar graph, and then the boss was like, oh, that's really good, but what is it in percentages? So I go back to my desk and I think about it more, and then I try and incorporate that, like that little story or other little stories like that, like when you can make it more real for your audience.
It's true. It's helped so many people too, and I think it helps people just kind of understand that more when you can make it personal. And I always take it back to how I learned Tableau. So.
Yeah, and it's not just what you're doing, but why you're doing it.
True. And Steve.
What I'd like to add to what Erin and Sarah said is I learned from listening to Johnson & Johnson about how they approach their training. And I just remember seeing this graphic of, it was like a multi-channel approach is the best way that I can describe it, is that, they did the intro video, they did the intro training, they had the intranet pages, they had the calendar of events, but, they just recognized that not everybody learns in the same way. And they had a different, you could almost choose your own adventure about how you were going to learn Tableau. And so that's something that I've always carried through with myself personally, is that not everybody learns in the same way, and you have to give people options about how they can get the education to be successful I think just picking up on what Erin said there, but both the software and what you need around the software you know, about the storytelling, about the, you know, the keeping it simple, you know, about the how you make it visually appealing and that people can actually understand the message that you're trying to give. So, you know, yes, technical expertise in Tableau is important, but I think it's very important to, you know, have the wrapping around that about how you use the tool effectively so that it really works for your business users. And again, you know, going back to my Tableau days, quite often people, oh, well, it's a technical tool, it's all about the technical training, and they totally missed all this other angle of what you need to be successful.
Excellent point. Yeah, no, very true. A question for Erin here. I know, you know, really today's day and age, we're kind of missing out on the Tableau conference. And there's a lot of new users who've never been, and it's something where I think I found a lot of as somebody who's been training, a lot of great resources to teach very difficult topics, and some that I found were incredibly difficult to teach. What's the hardest concept you have when it comes to teaching, and what do you think that the hardest concept is to get through as a trainer?
Yes, I have a couple. Here, so I would say the hardest concept that I actually train is measure names and measure values. We have a training, kind of a level 2, that's essentially, if you've been using Tableau for a month or so, what are the things that are really confusing you and bothering you? Like what is really bugging you? And for me, it was always measure names, measure values, or really dealing with trying to have a stacked bar chart that has multiple measures in it, because in Excel, that's so easy. And in Tableau, that's really not as easy if you don't know what you're doing, if you don't know how to do it. So understanding measure names, measure values is the hardest concept that we do teach. It's a little bit of a cop-out because I personally find table calculations to be the most confusing, like advanced table calculations, but I haven't taught them. They're too confusing. And I really struggle. I still, like, you know, 8 years in, I'm like, well, let's try it like this. Oh, that didn't work. Well, let's try it like this. That didn't work also. So I can't teach that one. But speaking of conference, I did go to a table calc training at conference that actually, like, I came away understanding a lot more than I did going in. And I was like, wow, they can teach this. That is very cool. I also, so all of the new users were talking about, at the previous panel, they were all talking about level of detail calculations. And we found that to be such a difficult concept that we actually did a whole hour-long prerequisite training for before you learn LODs. So it's called Data Foundations, and it's kind of understanding what a Tableau level of, what a data level of detail is, and then what a Tableau level of detail is. So because we were finding when you teach just the LODs, people were like, what do you mean detail? Like, what do you mean level? Like, so we have a whole course around, or a whole class just to prepare people to learn about LODs.
Oh, excellent points. Yeah, and those are incredibly tough. I'll ask Sarah also. I think it might mirror a lot of. I think you've kind of hit some of the hardest ones I've had.
Yeah, and I think definitely level of detail. So I'm interested, Erin, in learning more about this course you have, because we do have a lot of questions on that. But the other piece for me is really on the softer skills. So we're looking at, you know, the main reason I'm here at City is to try and change the data culture of our organization. And it's a big one, right? And especially, I think, coming in finance, people are number driven. And that's a good part of the story, but the amount of times that my team and my wider team get we just want this Excel pivot table replicated in Tableau. And, you know, it's a little bit soul destroying, and it's like, and there's always constant questions coming back on how do we get, you know, people up beyond that level. And I think it's that piece. So, and we call that kind of our softer skills area, and kind of almost, you know, key stakeholders, trying to take them on our journey and make them understand the importance of the storytelling. And, you know, we're constantly saying, you can't just look at a trillion rows of data in Tableau, and you shouldn't want to look at a trillion rows of data in Excel. And I think those are some of the harder pieces for us.
Excellent point. Yeah, great ones. Great ones. I'll turn it over to Steve too. I'm sure you've got some great insight on this table.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what Sarah was just saying. So I don't actually technically teach Tableau. The most that I do on the teaching side is I take people through the basics of data visualization, and and I have a few decks around the classic how many nines are in this grid, and then you start using the pre-attentive attributes, and you show the difference about weight from the grid into using length and color to show, and so that's the extent of my formal training, if you like. But then informally, it's doing a lot of what Sarah was just talking about there around just coaching people about what visual analytics and a tool like Tableau can do, and how it can help them see their data in a way and help them run their business in a more efficiently, shall we say. But it does take considerable effort to. I mean, in my last company, literally the CFO had the proverbial phone directory of rows and columns, and he will not be divorced from that, however much I tried over the year that I was there. So it is a challenge in particularly in the financial sector.
It's a big one. I've kind of considered one of the hardest things I'm seeing is and it's becoming more of a topic now is data literacy. And it's one of these things where it's kind of harder when you start looking at the organization as a whole. They may be very literate when it comes to like financial data, or specific data when if it's a satellite company, very specific information. But then kind of that larger, looking at the larger concept of data itself and being a lot more literate as to the numbers that they're getting. It's been an interesting one. And I think that's something that I like. It's a resource that I like to provide to folks too. I'll ask Sarah, what kind of additional resources do you add for folks, and do you make available, or would you like to make available too? It's kind of I guess, a pretty open question. But
yeah, it is. So I think on the data literacy side, there's a lot of blog posts and so forth out there, and we try and keep a lot of the stuff on our community site. So we kind of have a creator corner where we like to kind of start discussions. Another good thing that we do as well is we like to share as much as we can. So some big wins that we've got. We try and get some quotes from some key stakeholders to get corporate buy-in as well. One of our favorite quotes is we have a dashboard that quite a key stakeholder of our organization uses it, and he has a subscription to it at 6 o'clock in the morning, and he calls it his daily shot of caffeine. Tableau is his daily shot of caffeine. And so, we kind of like to quote him on that, just to kind of build encouragement and let people know that, hey, this person used to look at a big table of data once a month, and now at 6 o'clock every morning, he's looking at some really, high level numbers, and kind of get that encouragement going.
Excellent. Erin?
Nice. We have a couple things. We do a monthly newsletter that includes some data inspiration and like a blog post and things like that to share some additional resources. We also do send links to the videos either that are in the community or TC videos. When it comes to furthermore like technical skills, for the softer skills, that is definitely a place where it's really, we found it to also be a challenge. The skills around like understanding your audience and that kind of stuff. So we do offer a list of scoping questions. So if you're starting off on a new dashboard, here are some questions that we think you should consider. So like, who's your audience? How are they going to interact with it? What questions do they have? What are they going to do with each of those, do with that information? And so we have found we've found some success with with making sure our end users have these questions and reminding them to consider these questions, and just like, and then if they come to us with a problem, we'd say, well, what is your audience going to do with that information? So we try and just reinforce the softer skills through the scoping questions. But I'm writing down everything you guys are saying about other ways to do it, because I'm very interested.
We are recording it too, so
Yeah, no,
we'll be able to go back and watch again. But yeah, so Steve, also any additional resources provided out to the organizations you work with too? It sounds like data storytelling is really important.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, what I try and do is, try and hang it off the intranet portal, so that it's there if people, so that they don't always have to come through us to get to where they want to be. So, often the first question is, have you had a look at the intranet, and point them in that direction, because I don't think I've ever worked with a number of users that Sarah might have or Erin might have, but you can't have hundreds of or tens of thousands of people coming through a team of like 5 or 10. So putting it somewhere that people can get access to, but then also dropping tips and hints on the collaboration platform I found to be quite useful as well. And then, as well as all of that, is that allowing people to book data doctors, so if they're really stuck and they want an individual one-on-one, that's another method to just help people through. Another tool that we use. I've tried office hours at some of the companies I've worked with, and it's really interesting that there was one organization, Mars. They loved office hours. They would come along, laptops. Yeah, come on, let's do it. Inmarsat, not interested at all. Really just not interested. And so there's this whole cultural piece that you have to include in your education strategy, because some things work in some organizations and some things just don't in another. So
I think you kind of bled into my next question too, which is awesome, because I've seen this too, where you try to do the lunch and learns, or just office hours or Tableau doctor type sessions.
Yeah.
And I know I've sat in rooms just by myself, kind of twiddling my thumbs in some places. Other places, I was pretty much in the room for like most of the day. So it really does depend on the organization and kind of where people are at. Sarah, do you have any kind of like open hours or anything like that for your groups?
Yeah, so at City, we're actually quite new on our Tableau journey. So last year was really focused on educating our users a lot. So we did what we called the Tableau Day around all of our countries last year. We're in 17 markets and across many verticals. I think we hosted about 30 last year. And we went around, and what we did is we did deep dives on Tableau. So how I can use it, how I can subscribe to it, all this kind of stuff. And we did it with our in-country developers. And we kind of like deep dived in there and really showed the wider community on how to use Tableau and what benefits they could get, but from an end user perspective, which was something different that we hadn't done before. But it kind of helped on our data literacy journey as well, right? Because it had some key people asking the questions that our dashboards couldn't answer straight away. And it kind of helped our creators come on that softer skill journey of, oh, I hadn't thought of that. And oh, yes, this is more an intuitive way of going about getting to that data and things like that. So it was kind of probably a bit of a different answer to that question, but I think it was really insightful for us. And this year, our focus is going to be kind of taking that another step out. So having more structured and shorter. So it's going to be the Tableau hour is what we're going to do. And we're going to really do deep dives on a particular dashboard. And that again is going to like evolve us on our data literacy journey. So we're going to use our statistics from Tableau. So looking at our Postgres, we're going to identify some really key users, and we're going to go and target them and ask them, you're using this dashboard a lot. What do you find value in? What don't you? So we can kind of level up, and that's going to be with our creators. And what we'd like to do as well is kind of just do blog posts on this and key learning. So we don't want like all our creators on that call at once. It'll probably be the people that have developed the dashboard, and then some key users and people that we perceive to be key users that maybe aren't using the dashboard, and having a real deep dive and asking some of those kind of scoping questions, but after the dashboard has been built. And then we'd like to kind of write some blogs up about this and do it as key learnings for our creators.
That's awesome. So meta. It's really, you're looking at your own internal data on Tableau to kind of go through and help everyone else out in the organization. I love it. I love it. It's great. Well engineered. And I'll ask Erin too. I think Erin's doing a lot of work with her users also.
Yeah, we do. So in addition to like a couple different trainings a month, we do twice a week office hours. So for us, office hours is a little more like a Tableau doctor session. So it's all remote right now. So you have to sign up for essentially we have a bunch of half-hour slots, and we have people sign up. So if people come to us with questions outside of office hours, we usually try and just steer them into office hours, and asking them how urgent is their question. If it can wait a day, then let's just talk tomorrow during office hours. I'll sign you up. Like here's where we're open. It's actually been really helpful for us we used to just schedule meetings with users whenever they wanted. But this has been a helpful way for us to kind of my team to better organize their time. And eventually people get used to it. Doesn't mean we don't have any meetings outside of office hours, but I mean any meetings with end users, but we do a lot in office hours.
Really cool. I'm going to kind of break here for a second. We got a couple of questions coming through the Q&A. Really, we got from the audience themselves. I'm going to lob these out to just about anybody if you're willing to answer these, or if you've got a good reply back. One of the ones that came through was most of our products, not just Tableau, suffer from scope creep. So a lot of people wanting to shove everything into a dashboard. What have you found that helps your coworkers appreciate very concise and targeted products? And I think this is a great question for us, because we get those requests all the time. So
I can have a start at it. So we work agile. So it's really important for us to kind of nut out our requirements early on. And we don't always win, right? Like sometimes we get a lot of, but I want this and I need this, and I'm trying to solve it for everything. And you get that old classic one as well of here's my Excel, can you just replicate that? And that can be like 50 tabs, and you're just like, So we do try and really take a big step back with the business, and try and educate them and take them on that data journey. Something that we've found is quite helpful is we'll always recommend like a summary at the beginning. And try and a couple of maybe tabs after that have got some more detail. And one of the ones that we are looking at now, we've always provided like a DIY view. We understand that we're not going to be able to answer every question, and part of our remit is really to stop people from needing to go elsewhere to get the data. We feel if they're going back to Excel or something, then we've lost our what we're trying to do in our data democratization. So we try and we know that we can't answer everything at once, but we're not going to give 50 sheets to answer what they may want. But we do give a little bit of a DIY view, so they can go and do some digging themselves if they need to get some specific stuff. And we are using our Postgres data to understand who's looking at that data, and if they're looking at it a lot, then understanding what pieces they are pulling out from that, and to see if we can then start including that more visually for them. Another thing is we've just recently upgraded to 2020, and that means for us that we can start using Ask data. So we're quite excited about leveraging that, because we don't want to take away the exploration for our users, but we do want to make what we feel is important to be front and center, and use visualization to start giving some of those key insights, instead of like what Steve was talking about the the big the big telephone directory of data where I had one CFO that knew, you know, on page 50, row 10 was his number, but trying to get him to like think, let's put that on the front page is quite a journey sometimes.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm glad I'm not the only one.
I always refer to those as kitchen sink type questions, where it's like you give everything and the kitchen sink. You know, it's kind of what they're looking for. So it's always a tough one. So, we got another question too. It's kind of an add-on to that. Is how do you help your the creators, the Tableau creators, appreciate that their audience has a very limited attention span? I think Sarah you kind of semi answered that as well too. Anybody else? Any other insights?
I'd add to what Sarah said is just showing what good technique looks like, you know, when you're trying to visually present information. And I think Cole Knaflick's, you know, book and training classes that she does about, you know, storytelling with data and about keeping it simple and those concepts that she teaches, I found that really helps the creators understand what good looks like in terms of how you present information. I think you have to coach and educate the creators about, you know, how to approach the business users, how to challenge the business user politely. You know, Sarah was talking about, it sounded like the kind of compromise, which is, yeah, we can all talk about what visual best practice is, but when a user really insists that, no, I really need to see the data behind it, you kind of have to work that narrow channel about, you know, what's the compromise that will work for everybody. And so just saying, helping people, the creators, understand that that's okay, that it doesn't have to be perfect visual best practice. You know, that's reality. So I would say that.
No, I like that. I like that a lot. Coming back to, I'm going to come back to something that dawned on me too, and we're listening to the earlier panel, and you know, really everyone there was talking about certification and getting, you know, Tableau certified. If a lot of people in the audience may not know, you can actually get certified, and there are different certificates in Tableau that you can get. How important is it to everyone in their organization to be certified? I know some organizations are very pro certs, and other organizations are just kind of, you know, very blasé about it. So I'll throw it out to the group.
Erin, did you want to? I've got a comment. I'm conscious I just spoke, so I'll let Erin go first.
Yeah, I have not heard of certifications being a big thing in my organization. Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know if any of our users have them or not, and that's okay.
So for me, I am a big Tableau Public fan. So if I'm recruiting, I go to Tableau Public to see their portfolio. That for me probably is ranks higher than certification. But in saying that, a lot of my team is certified, and I feel like we encourage, if they are interested in it, if it's part of their personal goals and objectives, then we will definitely support certification. But it is not a requirement for us.
Same here. I've never made it a requirement. But you know, one thing I have seen at Roche Pharmaceuticals, they had skill belts within their organization, and people had to achieve a certain level of skill belt to get access to Tableau in the first place, be able to create content, be able to publish content. You know, so whilst it wasn't the formal Tableau certification, it was a level of certification to be able to do certain things. So that's a concept that Roche and a number of other organizations that I've worked with have implemented.
I've seen that. I've seen that where you pretty much, it's like you'll have to take a training session or something to kind of move on to something new, and that's actually a really interesting point. It's a really good one too. I also, Sarah, you bring up an excellent point too for the audience listening. really, take a good look at your Tableau public profile. And I've heard from so many people that are kind of kind of on our end of this, where we do hire analysts and developers and folks to come into our organization. Tableau public is so important. If you see, you've got a list of people applying, and one of them has an excellent profile. And when I say excellent, everything doesn't need to be polished, but it does show progression and that you've learned. I think excellent point. And it looks like Steve's got a comment there. Did I catch you in a comment or no? An excellent point.
I need to work on my Tableau public profile.
Now, something I think everybody's kind of alluded to this too. Now, in your roles, have you found hidden benefits? I know, Erin, I'll let you start this one off too, Erin. You've mentioned you've kind of become like a networker, where you start to hear from people, and they've got different either different passions or different problems they're trying to solve that another group you might have worked with had worked with before. But I guess what kind of benefits have you found from your roles?
Yeah, so I've with giving people with delivering formal trainings, it might be faster to do videos, but having in person, at this point it's remote, but we do live remote trainings. It's a great way to connect with analysts. You find out what they're working on, you find out what their questions are, and you get kind of some real-time feedback on how your training's being received. It's also a great way to start building relationships. I do find that people are a lot more comfortable coming to office hours and coming and asking questions if they have met you, if they have talked to you, and that kind of thing. So as far as seeing the same problem over and over again, you can really connect. Like, every team needs to visualize their project management data. So we have a bunch of different people that have already done that. So let's connect them with each other so they can learn from each other. So that's been another benefit.
I love that. Yeah, that's great.
And something that I'm just going to add on to that. So I think it's great that you do like the Tableau Connect hours. Something that we try and do is, if people do learn something, then we like to ask them to write a blog about it. Hey, obviously sometimes there's sensitive data and they can't share it wider, but they could at least kind of, maybe use Superstore or something like that and go, hey, this is what I learned in my session today. And then that goes up on the community. And I think that becomes a great resource, particularly if it's something that's maybe a bit of a curveball because of the way our organization is set up. They're struggling to connect to a particular data source or something like that, and just putting that bit up as a community piece. And I think that kind of makes it so it's not just my team and I that are contributing to the community, but putting blogs up. I think that's really valuable. And I think, something that I always take from Andy Kriebel, it's like, he started the whole Makeover Monday and Watch New Biz thing because that helped him learn. So if you learn something and then you share it with others, then that kind of reinforces your own learning.
I think it helps people understand they're not alone. In my last job at Inmarsat, I got speaking to this guy and he was starting showing me his dashboards. Look what I've done, and I'm going, oh, here we go. But they were brilliant. They were really, really good. They were, had all the best practices, had all the bands across the top. Brilliant. So anytime anybody else came to me and said, so what's this Tableau all about then? I said, have you spoken to Darren? Have you seen his dashboards? No, I'll go and speak to Darren. And then they came back and went, oh, can we have some of that, please? And so it's a point I meant to make earlier, but it went out of my mind, is that helping people to see data that they understand rather than Superstore or cycles or something in Tableau, that is really a great step to get people brought into going through the training program, learning the best practices. If you help them with their data or data that they understand, and also pointing out that, hey, Darren's done it and this guy's done it, this guy's done it. Oh, well, if they've done it, then I better do it as well. And so that really helps with the whole education and buy-in for the training.
It's really true. Being able to being able to meet people where they are. And I think Sarah brought it up earlier, and it resounded with me where, sometimes you have to give people that broader picture of, this is what we're doing, this is how we're visualizing data before you even really start getting too focused in details and talking about calculations and such. Kind of what's that broader picture? And I was thinking about, really, are there other kind of non-technical training items that you bring into your sessions, or the people that you work with? I know I've seen like sketch notes, something like that, where I've always wanted to bring that into an organization where I'm at, and I've never really found a good way of doing it. But I think it kind of helps people kind of open up. And I'll ask you, Steve, too, because you might have a really cool a cool response to this one too.
Well, I wish I had. It's more of an aspiration rather than anything that I've actually been able to do. The training I've been able to implement has primarily been technical training, but I would love to wrap around, things like design thinking, the storytelling with data concepts, those extra soft skills and the kinds of things that Erin was talking about, the scoping questions and those, they're definitely things I would like to add to the roster in a future future job. Yeah.
That's really great ideas too. I think this really kind of helps kind of open it up from a different dimension, not necessarily all Tableau based, but it kind of helps us look at it that way. Sarah, any additions?
Yeah, I mean, I really love the scoping questions part of it. I think that's really important. We always start with pen and paper. We try and get as far away from the tools as possible. I feel that's super important. I think you can get kind of bogged down in what's there. And I think, one of the scoping questions for us is really, what do you need to drive your business? And trying to step away from the data that you've got in front of you, because you can really get caught up in that and things. And another piece that I want to add in is, we have style guides as well, and they're really key to us. So it's like, we talked about keeping things simple and stuff, and Steve mentioned Cole, who does storytelling with data earlier. One of my favorite stories from her, I think, is on one of her podcasts, is when she worked at Google and she designed this awesome spider chart. And she loved it. But every time she went into a presentation, she had to spend 15 minutes explaining what it meant. And so over time, she realized, hey, actually a bar chart will help with this. So it's kind of like that whole simplicity, and I don't have to explain what a bar chart is. And that's something that I'm always drilling in to my team. They're like, oh, but we're always doing bar charts or line charts. It's like, yes, because you don't have to explain them to anybody. They know what they are. So I think it's like, it's a lot around taking simplicity and having those scoping questions and always going back to it. Like, what am I trying to get out of this dashboard? What are the insights that I need? And then as well, like, having that structure where you're like, okay, so you need this number, but what do you need after this number? Is this number good? Is this number bad? Like all these kind of things, and just getting the team up to speed on asking those questions.
And I'll have Erin answer the question too, if there's anything else that you add in that's not necessarily technical.
We do in our intro training, I like to point out color choice. And particularly red and green, and like being careful there. I add in like a funny anecdote with my father-in-law is colorblind, and my mother-in-law got some new red lipstick, and he goes, oh, that's some nice lipstick. What color is that? Gray? And she, no, it's not gray. And she like never wore it again. Like, just like kind of a reminder that not everybody can see the red and green. So we try and add in some kind of best practices as we go. For us, data governance is really important. So we try and add in those kinds of governance ideas as you go too. Like, you got to be really careful about who you're sharing your data with. They have to, you have to make sure you're talking to the right people before you do it, and, following the right bureaucracy and stuff. We are trying to think through how we do more trainings on the softer skills. Particularly for us, I think one of our next goals is to do like a mini training on like dashboard makeovers. So how do you get your dashboard from okay to great or okay to good, or and that kind of thing, like titles, white space, color, simplicity of chart choices, and that kind of stuff. We have heard a lot of people getting frustrated with too many bar charts, and then the audience also getting frustrated with too many bar charts. And that always hurts. So I'm like, oh, I have to try to remember there are different purposes for different visualizations. Not every purpose is to communicate the fastest, but I still, I'm like, oh.
Could I just talk about?
I think. Oh, sorry, Steve. Please.
Just about the scoping questions. I just remembered one that I use that I've used in the past, which is really useful about, when you talk to people about what questions do you want to answer, but then I also try and remember to answer about what's the other backlog of questions that you can't answer at the moment that you would like to answer. So putting that on the list of scoping questions, because that normally elicits, say, well, we've always wanted to do that, but we never knew how we could get the data. And that's a way of getting buy-in from your end users. And also I talk about reimagining what they've always had. Well, you don't need everything. I'm guessing you might not need everything. What do you need to run the business? And we can reimagine it in the visualization tool. And so both of those I've found useful in the past.
Excellent point. I think that's always one of my project scoping questions, is kind of like, once we build this, kind of what do you foresee those next questions being? And that always kind of helps the project along too. Yeah. I'm going to wrap up also with one last question that I got, and I thought it was a great question. I've never done it, but I was curious about gamification. Has anyone implemented gamification at the organization, or at least have seen it too? I'm really kind of curious. I'll start off with Steve.
Seen it, never done it. I think it's one of those would love to at some point, and I'm sure I'll be. I hope to have the opportunity to work for an organisation where it would really be a great thing to do. But it's this stepped approach as you start small. An email, an intranet portal, office hours, Tableau doctors, and then eventually get on to gamification. Because I've seen it. I think seen people like Fee Gordon talk about it, but not had the opportunity.
Sarah, anything at your organization, right? You've seen in
yeah. I mean, a big fan of Fee Gordon, so vizcheck.com's playbook for gamification for Tableau. It's awesome. Funny story, as my last company, we'd got it all sorted, ready to go, ready out the gate. And then I took an opportunity in another organization. So it's something that I'm very passionate about. I'm not doing it at the moment, but I would love to kind of encourage it in our organization. And I think so, even just some basic things, like it doesn't have to be the full kind of remit, but something that I think is really fun is just doing something like having Makeover Monday once a month, where people can maybe come in and join if they want, or doing hackathons or something like that, just to keep that community feeling alive. And I really like with VizChecks, I think it's like Rookie to Rockstar or something like that, and having fun stickers that people can maybe have on their laptops, just to to showcase that, hey, they've done a couple of stages of the gamification. So I really love it, and I would hope to be able to implement that beyond getting to the door.
It's awesome to hear Fee describe that too, and kind of the stages throughout. Erin, yeah. Anything on your end?
Just to echo what the other panelists said, it seems really interesting. I love reading about what Fee has done. Haven't done it, but very. I'm really curious to see what kind of level could work. I like what Sarah said about it doesn't have to be a whole thing with all the skill belts and stuff. It could just be like you attended a monthly thing or something. It doesn't have to be like a lot. Yeah,
that's great. You know what, there was one last thing I forgot, and this is really just for the one person who'd asked the Salesforce question. And I don't know if any of us have experience with Salesforce and using the Salesforce reporting versus dashboard functionality. Salesforce Reporting dashboard functionality versus using Tableau. Just I think some of you might have actually used them. I saw it was still open as a question. I know Brittany had pinged it. But.
I can give a little bit of background. I've done cross training on Salesforce reporting, and I'm speaking on behalf of myself here, not necessarily my organization, but I think the things you want to think about with Salesforce reporting are you combining your data with data outside of Salesforce, and then also how often do you need to? So I don't think it's okay. So I don't think it's one or the other. I think I would say if you can use a Salesforce report to get the data you need and get the insights you need, and you need to do it quickly, and it's maybe going to your team or something, then it's a great option. If you need more advanced calculations or data snapshotting or other chart types or bringing in other data, then I would say bringing it outside of the system and doing it in Tableau would be better. We've seen with some users that for their team's dashboard, they would have their team needs the most up-to-date data. So their team looks at a Salesforce dashboard. The management needs weekly or monthly data. The management needs something that looks a little bit nicer also. So the management dashboard would be in Tableau. So I think it really depends on your use case and your audience. But also when you do bring data out of a system, you have to think about data sensitivity. Also, how's the data getting out of the system? And there's a lot more considerations there.
Yeah,
I think
and just to kind of follow on from that, we have a bit of a two-phase approach. So we have, some of our Salesforce data in Tableau, and then some of our Tableau data, Tableau visualizations in Salesforce. So I think that's a great way to kind of, what Erin said is that management level versus that kind of like really granular, this is what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis level and stuff. But it is nice if you can to integrate between the two. We have like some performance scorecards from Tableau that are embedded in Salesforce. So it's a really great way to look at that.
Well, folks.
Nothing to add. I think both Erin and Sarah said it all.
Well, I'm actually glad. I mean, it was a great panel. Thank you. Thanks everyone for coming out. I hope the audience took a good amount away. I know I saw Erin taking notes. I was jotting things down. Definitely great ideas, and I got some great concepts. So I'm going to hand it over to Brittany. But thank you everyone. It was fantastic.
Thank you.
Definitely. Thank you. That was great. And thank you to all of our other panelists who are on for our first panel as well. I feel like these were both really informative to anybody who's new or is interacting with new users. So before we wrap up, just a reminder that you should register for our next event, which is going to be Workout Wednesday. You can already register for it now. And we'll see you next time. Oh, in May and June, or in the meeting following the Workout Wednesday, it's going to be presentations. So if you have a presentation that you're interested in sharing with the group, then please reach out and we'll get you in there. Awesome. Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Thanks. Bye. Thanks, guys. Take care.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.